job for you. Hello, my name is Dylan. How are we doing tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us here at French Quarter Phantoms. Know you had a lot of options. Very glad that you went with us. So before we get going, no video or audio. Take as many pictures as you want. Just trying to keep my job off of YouTube. I'm already a tour guide billionaire. Don't make me a YouTube billionaire as well. Thank you very much. Fourth thing, we are in the French Quarter. This is one of the oldest operational neighborhoods in America. It's older than the United States. Operational since 1718. And if it is not a business in here, it is a multi-million-dollar private residence. Right? So my job tonight is to walk you around the French Quarter, tell you some of the best ghost and vampire legends. We're talking folklore. This place is burnt down and swept away so many times. Record keeping is really bad. A lot of what you got about these houses are the great stories that have been passed down through generations of storytellers. So I didn't make any of these up. My company didn't make these up. These have all been passed down for decades. If not great. Any questions before we get going here? No? All right, come this way. Guys, I'm about to stop us at a place down the street called MRB, lovely local bar named Mississippi River Bottom. And it's a building that has been a bar since the early 1800s. You had a lot of Irish immigrants come escaping the Irish potato famine. And one of these in the 1840s was a young lass, an Irish lass, 16 years old, named Mary. And she gets onto a boat with her family that unfortunately now we call a coffin ship. Has anybody ever heard that term before? Where like a bunch of people get on a boat, they go across the ocean, and by the time they land, like 10 people roll off. Everybody else has died from cholera, dysentery, typhus, tuberculosis was what Mary's family went down from. Very communicable, one of about a dozen people that rolls off of the boat. She is left to fend for her own here on the dock, and one day she is caught trying to nick something from behind the bar at MRB, or what is now MRB, and the ladies that run it take pity on her. They say, "Hun, we can offer you a job here. It ain't the most glamorous position in the world, but you can stay alive, and that is the #1 deal while you're here. Plus, we will keep you from some of the scarier element." So, yes, they say, "Honey, you got a job." So she starts working, and it is scary work. It is not great work, but she is keeping herself alive again, and that is very important. And one day, in through the front door of that bar comes the new love of her life, a penniless sailor boy named Joseph, and they start spending a lot of time together. It's puppy love. After being together for a couple of months, he comes to her and he says, "Honey, I want to take you out of this life, but I don't have the money. I got to take this real dangerous trip all the way down to South America, and I'm going to make it back to you as soon as the ladies." And the ladies are all like, "Oh, sweetheart, a business trip to South America? Okay, all right, well, now that you're betrothed, we'll let you step back and wait for your Joseph. We'll let you do the dishes, do the laundry, that kind of stuff." So they wait for her Joseph. She does her work, waits for Joseph, waits for Joseph, waits for Joseph. And the weeks start ticking by, and after a while, the ladies come up to her and they're like, "Hun, we had some suspicion, but you had to learn your own lesson. Men are pigs, and he's probably run off with another little Mary at this point." Can't believe it. She can, no, her whole life was taken away from her, and then this guy came out of nowhere, and he was going to take her out, and it's more than she can handle. She goes into the back yard, and on a tree that's still back there, she ties a noose, and she ends her life. But it's okay. A lot of people say she still hangs out at the bar. Thank you. Some gallows humor for you on your ghost tour. Yes, did you expect it to end happily? It's an awful story. I know, they all are. I do this every night, ladies and gentlemen. So you gotta laugh at this stuff. So either way, yes, she's a bit of a vindictive ghost. She's not the scariest, but she doesn't like happy couples because of her own jilted romance. So sometimes too much PDA happens, and somebody gets a pop on the back of the head. She doesn't like young, rude dudes telling lewd jokes in the courtyard or in the bar, being a creeper on the women in the bar. She does love single ladies, especially ladies that work in restaurants and bars in the French Quarter. Sometimes a lady talking about a bad night at work, and she gets home, she opens her purse, and lo and behold, what's this? An heirloom diamond ring, a $100 bill. Hey, check it out. She takes from the ones that she doesn't like, and she gives to the ones that she does. She's like cool feminist Robin Hood of MRB right over here, right? So while we're here, treat Mary with respect, treat your bartender as well. All right, guys. The house I'm going to be telling you about is this big old 3-story gray honker right here. It is over 10,000 square feet, popped right in the middle of the French Quarter. It is a big old house. Anything that is gray up to this street lamp essentially is the Lalaurie Mansion. We're going to walk all the way around it in a few, so you will see just how opulent it is. Either way, this was lived in by a woman on the 1820s and 30s. A woman and her husband. The woman's name was Delphine Lalaurie, also known as Kathy Bates, if you've seen the show. Either way, she is not born a Lalaurie. She's born a McCarty. The McCartys are some of the wealthiest plantation owning family in town. Third guy that she marries, she's now almost 40, and this guy is in the beginning of his 20s, and you read this as literally like the first recorded cougar attack in Louisiana history. People like society's head explodes at this coupling. Either way, he is a doctor named Nicholas Louis Lalaurie, and I say doctor because this is at a time in history when being a doctor meant that you just like put leeches on people and like made them drink mercury until they died. Nicholas Louis, let's just call him a not great doctor. Either way, they are opulently wealthy though. They move into this house and they start throwing huge parties just about every single night, or every single weekend, I'm sorry, and you do not get invited to these parties unless you are the wealthiest of the wealthy in town. Creole, very wealthy. They start throwing huge parties, and a lot of rumors go around about the way that they are treating the people that they keep enslaved inside of their house. Last year, April 10th, 1834 is the reason I'm standing in front of this house. They are throwing a huge party that night. There are 2 opera singers that have been hired to boat over from Europe just for this party, and a fire catches in the kitchen. And this kitchen, the kitchen would be around where this garage door is now today. In this style of house, typically the kitchen was kept in a slightly separate building underneath these slaves' quarters, so to keep kitchen fires from spreading to the rest of the house. The Lalauries, being wonderful, cuddly sociopaths that I've told you they are, say, oh, nobody let this little fire get our party down. Everybody grab a bottle, grab a chair. We're taking our party down to the street. Block party with the band. Yay. Everybody stick to the front of the house, though. The side is dangerous. We've got our private fire company coming. Don't worry about it. And they have a block party on the front. And then the firefighters get here. They knock down that door, and when the smoke clears, much to their dismay, they find an elderly enslaved African woman that has been shackled to the stove. Long-term signs of abuse. She's passed out from smoke inhalation. It's not only awful, also very illegal. Under law at the time, they break the woman shackled, they bring her out onto the street, they resuscitate her, and so the story goes. She begins yelling and screaming at everyone around her. She's saying, why did you bring me back? I actually started that fire, and I would rather die in a fire than spend one more night with these people. Do not give me back. They will do horrifying things to me. So finding this awful, they go inside, and they're looking for more people. They don't immediately find them. What they do find is a large set of wooden doors that have been heavily barred and padlocked. They hear voices coming from behind there, and they say, Louis, Delphine, this is extremely suspicious. You've got to give us these keys, to which they say something along the lines of like, oh, we lost those keys, we'll never go in there, and they make their lame exit. So they knock out that padlock with an axe, and when those doors swing open, something so awful going on in there. Grown men are falling to their knees and losing their dinner, or just upon entering, they find 2 enslaved people, a man and a woman, shackled to medical tables. They're both already dead. They have had their arms and legs amputated, swapped, and sewn back on, possibly in an attempt to see if they would regain functionality. They find enslaved people in neck manacles, large sharp barbs underneath their chin. If they get tired, they cannot touch their heels to the ground and they will puncture themselves and bleed out. They find an enslaved man strapped to a chair with a hole bored in the top of his head, a rod stuck directly through the 2 lobes of his brain. He's barely alive, barely breathing. They find, according to the New Orleans Bee, a newspaper, April 11th edition, they find a 3x3x3 wooden box that is barely large enough to fit, quote, a medium-sized dog. Upon opening it, they find a live enslaved woman who has had her arms and legs broken and reset in order to fit inside of that box. They call her the human crab, that she lives in a bag. And long story short, Louis and Delphine have been torturing and murdering the people that they're keeping as slaves. Yes, down here they're starting to bring these people out onto the street, and other people on the streets are starting to call for the Lalauries' blood. Now, a lot of these people, the most horrifying part of this story is they're not the only ones doing this kind of stuff. The other people at this party, they're complicit. They've probably known about it, and now they're saying, hang them, hang them. I don't want to be complicit either. That, to me, is maybe the most horrifying part. Also, the woman that called out the fire, she never even gets a name in the story. Either way, they are bringing people down, and people are starting to riot. They're calling for the Lalauries' blood. Long story short, guess what? The Lalauries have escaped with a bunch of their money in a carriage. They pop up at a Broadway musical, according to one account, a couple weeks later. Then they pop back up all over French society. They divorce once they get back to Paris, because they make it back there. Louis apparently kind of just dies in the gutter a little bit. We don't exactly know how she died or what happened to her either. She just disappears into history. Everybody here with the last name Lalaurie changes their last name, and essentially they get away with it. They live happily ever after. Yay, fun story, right? So either way, this place gains a reputation for being haunted that night. People say they can hear screaming, banging, shouting, scratching inside. They come back the next morning. That night they light another fire. The place gets looted. Grand piano gets pushed off of the gallery into the street. And next morning, people say they can hear screaming, banging, shouting, scratching. They go back in. They can't find anybody. The place sits abandoned like that for about 40 years. Nobody wants to touch it. They start calling it the Murder Mansion or the Haunted House. And it's then 140 some odd years of this place passing back and forth between dozens of hands. It is no one's held onto it like more than like hardcap decade. Like the curse is like 5 to 7 years. It's about the amount of time they lived in there. But there are people that make it past every now and then. Like I said, loophole to just about everything in New Orleans. Either way, a hardcap decade, and it's usually weird death, weird suicide, or financial ruin. You can ask our friendly neighborhood weirdo, Nicolas Cage. Here's that this is the most haunted house in town. Sight unseen purchases it in 2007 for $3.45 million. He's quoted as telling David Letterman, like, his friends have a bunch of good beachfront property, but he's sick of that. He wants some ghost front property, and he purchases this house. He also purchases one of Anne Rice's old mansions uptown. And guess what? He moves in here. He hates it so bad he puts it back on market like about a month after that. And apparently, according to the story, purchases another apartment in that brick building across the street and watches his house sit on market up until 2009. Nobody in town wants him feeling oddly generous. He actually donates this house and the Anne Rice mansion to his favorite charity, the IRS. It's pretty much like dark like that most of the year.
I thought it was a hotel or Airbnb or something.
Or sometimes there's apparently a super secret, like super millionaire Airbnb type thing that you can actually rent this out, but I've never had that confirmed. I don't even think I'm supposed to know about that site. No, I want to wake up tomorrow.
So I was wondering, what were some of the major discrepancies between the real story and what was portrayed on American Horror Story Coven?
You heard that she was like a fiery redhead. She was actually just mousy brown, apparently, most people think at this point. A lot of what you see, the whole like Marie Laveau, Lalaurie stuff, there's no proof of that. They would have been probably contemporaries, but they would not have been hanging out. Like, they would not have had anything to do with each other. There's no evidence to say that she was like bathing in their blood or anything like that she does. But there was strong evidence to show that she was systematically torturing people. I'm already up to time, so I want to just show you guys this house right behind me, this green one, this green ironwork. This is a museum called the Gallier House. If you want to see what the inside of an upper class or an upper middle class house in the 1870s looked like, that's a museum. They've still got it all outfitted with all the crazy stuff. Everybody make sure we got room. So yes, this is a museum. Check it out now today. And this is actually the house that they used for American Horror Story as the front of Delphine Lallaurie's house. He wouldn't let them film there because he was afraid everybody would flock to the house and start telling the story. Lo and behold, everybody's been doing that since, like, for a really long time. Either way, though, check that out. It's a museum. It's beautiful. I want to give you one last joke.
And there you have it, the Ghost and Vampire Tour with French Quarter Phantoms. I'm here with our awesome tour guide, Dylan. Dylan, thank you very much, sir. That was a great tour, very funny. I enjoyed it. Now, when someone comes to New Orleans, obviously they have a ton of different tourists who attend. Tell them a little bit about French Quarter Phantoms and why they should go.
French Quarter Phantoms got some of the best tour guides in the city, telling some of your favorite chilling ghost and vampire legends from the French Quarter. Everybody I work with is a fantastic tour guide, some of the best senses of humor, some of the best historical-minded people that I have met. We also do a number of history tours throughout the city. Look us up, FrenchQuarterPhantoms.com. If you're in New Orleans, 504-666-8300. We start at the Voodoo Lounge, great bar right behind us.
And how do you forget that phone number attached to the Voodoo Lounge?
Yeah,
I mean, really. And what I noticed right from the website and what I experienced tonight when I saw with the other tour guides is the energy you guys have. You all have this, hey, you're joking around, you're like teasing about other tour guides. I'm like, okay, that seems like a very easygoing place to work. Yeah. Oh, and you're also certified. To be a tour guide in New Orleans, you have to have a certification from the city.
Yeah. So you have to know the difference between a balcony and a gallery.
That was important. I didn't, so yeah. I couldn't be a tour guide.
Galleries have posts.
There you go. And then you also find out about the Romeo.
The Romeo spikes.
The Romeo spikes. Yeah. Ouch. Let's just leave it at that. So there you are. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the tour. I had a blast.
Dude.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, comment below, share it with a friend, or better yet, hit subscribe. You can catch all my videos on the urban legends, the paranormal as I travel everywhere else. And don't forget to hit that little notification bell so you can be alerted every time I have a new video. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the journey. Cool.
Great, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, no problem.